Get ready for a no BS approach to health and fitness. This is NBS Fitness Radio.
All right, welcome back to NBS Fitness Radio. I'm here with a good friend and member of the gym, Jeff Roberts. Say hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's up?
When did you first join NBS Fitness?
February of 2020.
Okay. What kind of kicked that off? What inspired you to come to the gym and check it out?
I was sitting at my desk one day at church, and I was breathing heavily.
Okay.
I was getting out of breath when I tied my shoes.
Yep.
And I was sitting there wondering like what I was doing with myself. I have 3 kids. I work with teenagers.
Yeah.
And so like I want to be able to play.
Yeah. You kind of have to be able to play.
Yeah. I play a lot of basketball, play a lot of dodgeball, and I want to be good.
Yeah.
I want to beat these kids.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, how'd you find out about NBS? Like what, did you know my mom and dad at that point?
No clue.
Okay, cool.
I began researching like crazy. Like
Okay.
I knew I didn't want to do a big box gym because I had done it before.
Yeah.
And I just paid $10 a month to some company that I never saw.
Yeah.
So I began to think about what I needed. I need accountability. I need somebody to tell me what to do correctly.
Yeah.
And so I began researching. I think I wound up narrowing it down to 3 gyms, NBS being one. And NBS was the one that responded the most, not with like cheesy, like corny follow-ups.
Yeah.
That seemed very generic. That's the
Yeah.
word I'm looking for. But it was more Angie or Keiki reaching out to me saying, hey, following up from yesterday, did you talk to your wife?
Yeah.
And so that's how I narrowed my process down. And it had everything I needed,
Yeah.
which was most important to me, and everything I wanted
Very cool.
in a gym. So
Did you say you started in 2019
2020.
or 2020? So you started like right before the pandemic.
Yeah, I got through on-ramp, which was on-ramp at the time. And as soon as I got through that, I think I made it through 1 week of classes.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Okay.
So then I worked out in my garage for a summer.
Yeah. That was it's you, and I had Rachel on the podcast, and she did her kickstarts virtually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which I was like, oh man, like I forgot that, like that was like a memory I try to put in the back of my head and never pull forward again.
Same.
The whole virtual fiasco that was COVID. Well, cool. So when you first came to the gym, you just had the goals of kind of like just be in better shape, general fitness.
General fitness, that was my main concern, is just losing weight.
Yeah.
That's all I cared about, which I needed to.
Yeah.
And then as I got here, it began to shift. I still wanted to lose weight first and foremost, but at the same time, I wanted to get muscle.
Yeah.
And I noticed it starting to come on.
Yeah.
So
we weren't doing level method then.
no,
Yeah, we started that.
I don't know what we were
2021.
doing.
We're doing box programming.
I just knew I couldn't get anything on the board.
Okay. Talk about kind of what that kind of intro experience was like. Maybe some of the lessons that you learned kind of when you first come in. Because I think a lot of people, they have a very general idea of like, I need to be in better shape, but it's hard for them to really kind of put that into specifics.
Right.
So,
I think for me coming in, I was really worried about just everybody else in the class. Like, okay, I'm going to be a guy in here doing body weight stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what body weight stuff was. I just knew that I looked weak. But at the same time, I'm sitting there going, okay, we all scale.
Yeah.
We can all learn, and this is how we start.
Yeah.
And eventually, one day, I'll get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
But getting started and asking a ton of questions, that was huge for me.
Yeah.
When I ask questions, it helps me get better, but it also keeps me safer.
Yeah.
And so that was huge for me because when I first started, my lower back was a huge problem.
Mm-hmm. As it is for most people. I mean, like your back's not used to doing anything but sitting and laying,
Yeah, like I couldn't even finish a 400-meter run without my back hurting.
Yeah.
So asking ton of questions. Being in the noon class was huge because like every coach was there. And so I really learned a lot just being in that class with all of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people, like I've heard people say like, well, I need to get in shape before I go to the gym, or they're like, I'm not ready for that type of training yet. And I think that's a misconception that's actually keeps people from actually getting better. Is like, no, like our gym is full of people who are at every process of it. You know, you're going to be in a class with people who are starting just like you. You're going to be with people who have never worked out before. You're going to be with people who have worked out off, on and on. You can be with people who are, 3 months into their journey, 3 years into their journey, 30 years into their journey. You get to be kind of part of I like that because you get to see kind of that whole process.
Yeah.
And so you can be like, for some people, you're going to walk in and you'd be like, well, I'm definitely not there yet. That person's way up there. But then there's another person who's like, they're like 6 months ahead of me. Like, okay, cool. I can see myself doing what they're currently doing. And then when you get to that point, you get to look back and, someone else has just joined the gym and you can be like, hey, look, I remember my first day too, and this is where I started and this is kind of how the process went for me. So you get to kind of be part of that full journey where you can show people where you've been, but you can also see kind of where you're going, which I like.
Yeah, definitely. And I think my journey, it began when I started, of course. Then we had virtual time. Then even after virtual time, and we came back, I struggled with getting here still.
Yeah.
And my journey shifted when one night I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm going to 5 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what happens. Yeah. And that was it. That changed the trajectory of everything.
Talk about that because, a lot of our clients are kind of people in their middle age, or they've got kids and they're busy at their jobs and they've just got busy schedules. And then a lot of times, they'll kind of they have a hard time seeing a path through all that. They're like, I'm just too busy. I don't have any time to get to the gym, which I kind of like to tell people, like, hey, if you're a business professional with kids, you're probably not going to do it midday because you'll be working. You're probably not going to do it after work because you're going to have your family. Your time you're going to get it in is in the morning. So talk about that transition and kind of on how you work through it, because I think that's hard for people to kind of be like, I got to wake up and be at the gym at 5, and then kind of the results you've gotten.
Yeah. That was a random shift for me. I think forcing myself to get up at 4 a.m. was a way to get my day started out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Now it's comfortable, but it wasn't for about a week or two.
Yeah.
And I remember telling you, and you're like, the first week's going to be rough. And it was. But I did it. And then I realized, okay, this is it for me, because 3 small kids, full-time job. I'm a seminary student.
Yep.
When I was coming at noon, somebody could come up to my office at 11:30. And next thing I know, it's 12:15, 12:30 before they leave.
Yep.
And so getting in here at 5 a.m. has really just opened up my day drastically. Like this morning, I left here at, 6:45, and I had 2 hours before anybody got to work.
Yeah.
And I got so much work done.
Yeah. You start your day before everyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And after this, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Because I got to work so early.
Yeah. Yeah, the first week's tough just because you're really transitioning your sleep, and that's just the tough part. But like once you transition your sleep schedule, it's not too bad. I mean, you just gotta go to bed earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah. And okay, what was that like? Like, how did you shift that, like, with your family, and like what were you doing beforehand that you stopped doing to go to bed earlier or whatnot?
So now I don't eat or drink anything after 8, because if I do, I won't be able to go to bed when I want. Yeah. But prior to my 5 a.m. Classes, I was going to bed, 11 or 12, doing schoolwork from 9 to bedtime. Usually I'd get the kids asleep, go downstairs and do schoolwork.
Yeah.
I'd wake up the next morning just dead, exhausted, go to work, pretty much do more schoolwork there
Yeah.
or church work. And so I cut that out and I'd get out of my kids' rooms by 9
Mm-hmm.
and just come straight downstairs and say, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
at 9 o'clock, 9 to 9:30, I better be in bed.
Yeah.
If not, my mentality says up morning shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I bet 90% of the week I'm in bed between 9 and 9:30.
Yeah.
Just so I can get up at 4 and be normal.
Yeah, 100%. How do you feel having transitioned to like doing physical stuff first thing in the morning?
Well, my day, I feel much better
Yeah.
as physically, mentally,
Mm-hmm.
because my eating schedule is normal.
Yeah.
Because I can eat a normal breakfast at a normal time, and then I can eat a snack late in the morning and then lunch at a normal time instead of 2
Yeah.
o'clock. Because I was too scared to eat before I worked out when I was coming at noon. I
Right.
just was terrified.
Yeah.
Now I know I probably could have done it realistically and been
Yeah.
fine. But so yeah, mentally and my energy is way better, at least in the morning. That's always been my productive part of the day anyway.
Yeah.
Now it's just super productive.
Yeah. Yeah. I do train at the 12 o'clock class, but I do like a little 30-minute thing every morning. It's nothing like crazy hard. It may be like some foot exercises and bike for 20 minutes. But I find that starting my day with physical activity is a significant energy boost. More like it is the transition from like being asleep to like being awake and ready to rock and roll. More so than like caffeine, whatever, like bump me through that.
Oh yeah.
And I just have my mind is clear. I've kind of my mind is clear. I've my body's awake. My energy levels are high, and it's like, okay, now I'm ready to rock and roll.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Like I'll be yawning during warm up and up until like the clock starts.
Yeah.
And then after that, like the rest of the morning, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's cool. What can I go through some of like your big achievements since you started, like the things that kind of stick out in your mind, maybe some first or like body weight goals you've hit, all that kind of stuff.
Well, it only took me 2 years. When I joined nutrition,
Mhm.
that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Brandon taught me a ton of stuff, and then I started with Angie as well, and practical and technical stuff blending together.
Yeah.
Just by eating nutritious, my body weight has completely changed, and then with the strength work on top of it, I think my last nutrition check-in a month ago, I had dropped 9 pounds of body fat in
Nice.
30 days.
Nice.
And gained 3.5 pounds of muscle.
Heck yeah.
I think that's my biggest one.
Okay. That's awesome.
But I think my biggest highlight is doing all the Murph,
Yeah.
the stuff we've done outside of here.
Oh yeah.
You know, just doing stuff like that. You would have never caught me doing that
Yeah.
3 years ago. And being here probably 4 to 5 days a week.
Yeah. So just the consistency and being able to look at it and say like this is who I am now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I mean, I bet I don't go a day without talking, like mentioning the gym.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Why do you think that is?
I think it just had I got my friends are here,
Mhm.
and you're right. It has to be. It's who I am now.
Yeah.
And like when I'm out of town, like last week I was out of town. I'm texting the 5 a.m. group on Wednesday saying I'm going to do this workout in this terrible fitness center of a hotel, and I mean I'd used an elliptical and a treadmill, and I think that was it, and I did it.
Yeah.
But being able to just talk with these guys and you and everybody else that I see.
Yeah, I
That's
think
huge.
there's like a joke that's been like, how do you know someone does CrossFit? Just wait, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
But the way kind of I describe it is like I talk about what I care about.
Yeah.
You know, and what I'm passionate about. And I do think there's something behind the bonds that are created through, discomfort and effort that are, I say that having, I played sports my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
and I I never really had any friends outside of those situations. Like it was just any bond that was made outside of some type of like collective effort, just it wasn't sticky enough.
Yeah.
You know, and there's just something, and I think that's inherent in human nature. I mean, it's what allows us to accomplish these things that we as communities accomplish, right? And so, like, why do I talk about it? Why do we bring it up all the time? It's just like, well, it's something I'm passionate about, and it's what brings energy and livelihood to my life.
No, for sure.
You know,
Yeah.
it's the friendships I make having done something hard and like looked at each other and go, God, that was terrible. I'll see you tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's like you have that collective experience that you can now share forever. Like, remember that time we did? And I think it's very, I think the ability to, I think bonds are built being able to kind of like share those like memories, to bring them back up and talk about them. I think that's very good for the human psyche. And I think it's important for human connection. Because like anytime I get back with any of my friends I played college football with, even though I haven't talked to them for years, we're like, you get back and you instantly like, oh, I'm back in our group.
Yeah.
And like, you can have those, oh, remember when we did this? I remember practice was like that. And like in the moment, it sucked.
Oh yeah.
But you look back at it with like fondness.
Right.
And like a good memory. And I just think of like our physical challenge we did in January.
Yeah.
It sucked.
It sucked.
It sucked. But like, if you ask any of those guys there, hey, talk about it, they're going to talk about it with fondness.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that we talk about it is like you're trying to bring people into that fold. And then you can, when you talk to someone who doesn't have that, it's quite easy to see someone who doesn't have that physical release. They don't have that stress relief. They don't have that sense of I'm doing something positive. They don't have that sense of bond, and I mean, it's a very, being on this side of it, it's very clear. You're like, oh, you're missing something major
Right.
in your life right now. And so like you'll talk about it and like, and you sound crazy to them because you're like, no, it was awesome. Like we jumped in 36-degree water and we were out there for like an hour. Like some dude almost passed out because he was hyperthermic. And then we were shaking for 30 minutes and people were like, what? This sounds miserable. But you can tell like, because that's absent in their life, what they're just, it's like being on antidepressants. It's like most people's lives, and I think this is why so many people are on antidepressants, is it's just this even kill, nothing high, nothing low. And the problem with that is if you're never experiencing that low, that discomfort, that difficulty, that pain, that you can never experience the flip of that. And it's like I like to use the example of like cold water tastes totally different in 105-degree heat after you've like done Murph.
Oh, for sure.
Like if I gave you like sitting in an air-conditioned room and I gave you a glass of ice water, you're like, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, my water's okay right now. But
if it's 105 and you've been outside in the heat and you've just been working hard and then you have it, it's like, oh my gosh, that tastes so good. And so what I see when I hear people talking of it in a fond way or constantly bringing it up is because like your experiences are elevated to this high level of emotion that like excites you, makes you happy, and you want to bring other people into it. Like, I did this awesome thing and it made me so happy and it made me feel so great, but the reason for that is because like you did something that was difficult and painful,
Right.
So I think that's like when I asked you, like, why do you talk about it? When people are like, why do you always talk? Like, why are you always thinking about this? Like, I'm sure you do, like I do, is every Sunday you're like, what's the workouts this week?
Sometimes.
Well,
At least the next day.
Yeah, the next day you're like, what's the workout? Ooh, that's gonna suck. Okay, and you're like,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
kind of like preparing yourself for it. It's just like your daily, like every day, somewhat revolves around this thing that you're gonna do the next morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a major part of your life every single day. You know what I
tomorrow's going to suck,
mean? Yeah,
but the rest of the day will be better.
yeah, exactly.
Get the hardest part done.
I love it. Talk about some of the friendships that you've built. Like, how has that impacted your life, or maybe some of the differences between doing something like this versus being in a big box commercial gym?
Well, having done the big box commercial gym and gone in there by myself, not said a word to anybody, even people working there, just walked out and went home. Like there's just nothing to that.
Yeah.
There's nothing I want there.
Yeah.
Like coming here, like I can come at 5 a.m., 6, 12, or at night
Yeah.
and know somebody in the class.
Yep.
Give each other a hard time, talk about how much this sucks, and be on. We all have this we're like-minded in
Yeah.
the sense that we all want to put ourselves through this together.
Yeah.
And when I joined the 5 a.m., I didn't know a soul in that class.
Yeah.
And I would work out in the corner. I mean, I think I knew a couple of folks just from seeing them.
Was it the Mighty Men created by that point?
No,
Okay.
that got created. I don't know who created it, but it just showed up one day, and now it's this ongoing everyday group text.
I know it was Andy. I mean, like 100% is Andy.
That
Like
makes sense.
I don't know that. Like no one has told me that, but just knowing Andy, that's how I know who did it.
I can see Andy or Daniel.
Daniel too. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's an ongoing thing. And I mean, we're all talking every day.
Yeah.
Whether it's giving each other a hard time about the workout, missing,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And it's a lot of fun. Like I crack up in the middle of meetings sometimes because somebody says something ridiculous. But we're in there every morning together,
Yeah.
suffering, encouraging one
Yeah.
another, fist bumping one another. And then we recover together too
Yeah.
afterwards. And that's been a huge thing.
Yeah.
So it's been fun too, watching us suffer under the hands of Cheyenne or in the sauna or in the cold tub.
Yeah. It should be fixed here soon.
Awesome.
Very cool. Okay. So you just kind of went through your second year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just hit your 2-year anniversary. And, so, and then the second year or first year through Level Method.
Yeah.
So talk about like some of your now future goals. Like, I think a little bit of kind of the first process. You're just kind of like drinking water through a fire hose. It's just like a little bit just like, let me just survive. My goal, like you said, is like, I'm trying to just go to the gym and eat better.
Yeah.
But now you've kind of been exposed to it. You've got Level Method, which, gives you a very clear, a very, very clear analysis of like your current levels and then what you want to go, like, what are your future goals?
Well, I want to keep moving my colors up.
Yep.
So when I when I knew I could continue to grow and achieve my goals was when I deadlifted 400.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I can really do this.
Yeah.
And so after I did that, I got a video of it somewhere. It was a long time ago. I was like, man, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
And so now, like in the future, I want to continue to build my weight up
Yep.
on the bar. And most of all, continue to gain muscle and drop all this fat.
Yeah.
But the only way I'm going to do that is if I'm coming here.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Or participating in random things we do on the weekends or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So that's one of my main goals. But I think my primary goal is to just stay consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't see results on the InBody 1 month, okay, I did something.
Yeah.
I need to look back on this month. Okay, this is what I did wrong. Let's fix it. Just keep coming. Just stay consistent as long as I don't go the opposite way, I'm
Yeah.
going to feel good.
Yeah. What's been the biggest takeaways for nutrition?
The meat and vegetables.
Okay.
Like I eat my carbs, every morning. In the afternoon I have some, but the practicality of like frozen vegetables.
Yeah.
I just bought frozen turkey burgers. I don't know why I've never thought of this. For the longest time I'm sitting there stripping rotisserie chickens, cooking vegetables in the oven. I'm like, man, well, I still do that sometimes.
Yeah.
But finding the practical side of nutrition, like these Egg-Wiches from Costco.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Oh, money.
Yeah.
Like it's so simple. I was making it so complicated in the beginning
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't doing anything good for myself. I wasn't seeing any results because I was way overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But then finding this practical side through frozen items and other fresh items in the store, it's been a huge difference.
Yeah, I think I kind of say that's like a lot of people. I'm like, you turn your pebbles into mountains, like they say it's meal prep. People are like, I don't have time to meal prep for 3 hours every day. I'm like, well, yeah, that's you shouldn't.
Right.
Okay, but like that's a pebble. It's not a mountain. Like it's not insurmountable.
No.
Like we just come up with a couple like practical ways to adjust this. And like, well, I don't have time to eat in the morning. Okay, do you have 1 minute to microwave an Egg-Wich before you leave? Yeah, I got time for that. Well, let's do that. Like there's these very practical ways, but if you're not in it, like if you're just starting, like you don't have that experience.
No.
And that I think that's where working with a coach, it does two things. It's that accountability piece. Yes, it says, hey, we are going to do that, but then it's two people bringing their heads together to solve a problem.
Right.
It's like a lot of people are like, well, I could just get this diet off online, or I know what to do. I'm like, well, yeah, but okay, if we take a 5-year, timeline of your life, have you been kicking ass for that 5 years and put on all the muscle and lost all the body fat and maintained it, or have you been like on, off, on, off, on, off?
Yeah.
If the answer is on, off, then lack of knowledge is not what's keeping you from doing it. It's accountability or consistency.
Exactly.
So, like the way you used to do it, which might have been meal prepping for 3 hours every Sunday, well, that got turned on its head when you now have several kids.
Yeah.
And you can't do that anymore.
You
know what I
cannot.
mean? And so it's like, well, I got to find a way to still be able to, the responsibility to eat healthy is still there. You can't just throw it out. And so if you're having trouble working through that, bring someone in who can have an outside perspective, who also does this all day, every day, and has worked with thousands of people. I think that's like a big thing is like what people understand is, all right, been doing this for 20 plus years, worked with thousands of people. The amount of inputs that we've heard,
Right.
it is beyond anything you'll ever be able to do unless this is your job.
Yeah.
Right. And so we can provide you a very quick solution where you're like, oh shit, well, I never really thought of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, that's a great one. Like, oh yeah, they make these things. Like, yeah. The reason we are able to do that is because they've got 1,000 inputs.
Right.
And just over time, you kind of learn how all the different options. So you're thinking like, well, I either have to roast my veggies in the oven here or pull that. We're like, well, here's 20 different options. Does one of these work for you? And you're like, oh yeah, I could do that. And then bam, the problem solved. You realize it was just a pebble. And so like you were going down that path and you like stepped on the pebble, like, ow. And we were like, oh yeah, just like take a step to the right and you'll be good. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah,
and you keep moving.
Exactly.
But so many people that walk into that pebble go, ow, oh my gosh, there's this giant mountain in front of me. I can't go forward anymore. I got to go backwards. And you're like, I mean, that is the beauty of working with a coach.
Oh, for sure. Like my biggest problem was snacking and then lunch.
Yeah.
Like I like to go out to eat.
Yeah.
Not so much today, but So for my meal prep, quote unquote, I am whatever I cook the night before. Like we cook rice or some sort of carb for the kids.
Yep.
And Rachel and I eat vegetables and the protein.
Yeah.
And so the next day that night I pack a leftover rice and vegetables and meat into one container. That's my lunch the next day. That is the extent of my meal prep.
Yeah.
And usually I get two done. So she eats one, I eat one. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Do it again the next night.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Because it takes the same amount of time to cook 3 cups of rice as it does 1. It takes the same amount of time to cook 3 chicken breasts as it does 1. So you might as well just cook all 3, right?
Exactly.
What's been some of the out of the gym effects you've seen from kind of making these changes in your life? So maybe some of the impacts in your family life, impacts in your work life, all that kind of stuff.
Well, for sure, me switching to early morning opened up my schedule to where I have more time at home with the kids at night. I'm not stressed about school.
You're doing the school like in the morning now?
I am. Well, I do it at work now.
Okay, yeah.
Now that I'm in this process where they require me to go to school, it's part of my job.
Right.
So I get my work done in the morning. I get so much church work done in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I focus on schoolwork or vice versa.
Yeah.
Whichever one I'm feeling. There's been days I've done Greek or whatever class I'm in all day.
Yeah.
Which has been great. But so that the whole schedule thing has been huge because it opens up time at night with kids. I can cook dinner, hang out with the kids, play, watch a show with them. So that's been huge.
I can imagine like it's also nice to not have that schoolwork looming over it where you're like, all right, kids, you all gotta go to bed and get, because I got 3 hours of schoolwork I have to do now. Like, it's like you checked your list off and now you're like, it's family time.
Yeah. Like I can leave it at work.
Yeah.
Like I've always been a big fan of leaving work at work.
Right.
And now I can leave school there too.
Yeah.
And just come home and be present.
That's awesome. Yeah. I bet.
Which is nice.
Any other areas you've kind of felt the effects?
Well, at work, I play a lot.
Yeah.
I can actually play a lot now.
Yeah.
So they're into this game called Gaga Ball. I don't know if it's in like this octagon that's up to about your waist. And there's a playground ball involved. And you hit it. If you get hit above the knees, it's okay. But if you get hit below the knees, you're out. And so, I mean, these kids are flying around this thing, slapping the ball at you, hitting it 90 miles an hour at your face just for fun. I mean, it's a fast-paced game. Yeah. And now I can keep up.
Yeah.
I can win sometimes. They're really good. But playing at work has been good.
That's awesome.
Like I can be active with my students. I can be active with my kids at home.
Yeah.
So that's been the biggest.
I think an area that I see a lot of people underappreciate is your ability to engage and impact people younger than you by being able to hang with them physically. Because like if you're a grandparent and you've got young kids, they're going to be active. And you can either sit on the porch and watch them, in which all the memories will be of them, like sit on the porch watching them work or watching them play. Which like when you like, I think if you kind of have this idea of like, well, come sit on my lap and let me talk to you for a little bit. Like that's not how kids work. They're gonna be like, whatever, Grandpa, I don't want to do that. Right? You know what I mean? They're like, I want to go do things, right? So your ability to stay young allows you to be engaging and impactful to those people younger than you.
Definitely.
You being able to play with those kids and engage with them on a daily basis is going to make them build a better relationship with you, where you can now pull them aside and say, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Or like they're going to come to you and say like, hey, Jeff, like I'm dealing with this.
Right.
Where you probably wouldn't have that same relationship if you're like, all right, guys, there's the ball, go play.
Yeah, no, it'd just be me sitting on the sideline and
Yeah.
them having somewhat fun.
Yeah. You're just, at that point, you're more just like I'm trying to think of the word. You're the facilitator.
Yeah, I'm just an adult in the room at that point.
Right. You're not engaging with them.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's huge. All right. So you are a youth minister at a local church, going to seminary school. I think an area, and I'm curious to kind of hear your thoughts on this. We've talked about this outside of this a bit. So, but what I find is in most churches, the idea of like proper stewardship of your body is almost exclusively ignored.
Yeah.
It's never talked about. And in fact, it, like in many cases, like the opposite is actually promoted. Like I'm was thinking of like we'll be sitting in Sunday school and someone will bring up a prayer request and it's, it's like a parent or someone's dealing with like a health issue. And almost exclusively these health issues are at least impacted by a person's personal choices with regards to health and fitness.
Oh yeah.
And, we never go, we'll pray for them and, oh, that's terrible. But we never go like, hey, buddy, like you're 300 pounds and 50 years old and like you're in really bad shape. And I want you to be here to see your daughter, walk down the aisle. And right now you're not trending in that. And I'd rather tell you now than doing the prayer request of like, Bob is going through heart failure at 55.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, like, then what we do is, in churches we have the, we'll every single gathering involves basically putting pies in people's faces and feeding them sweet tea.
Fried chicken, pies, banana pudding.
Which is kind of crazy because, if we had a room full of recovering alcoholics or people had like recognition that like, man, I have this addiction, this sin involving the abuse of alcohol, we wouldn't be like, well, hey, man, come over and have some beers?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't even be an option.
And it is like and I know this sounds harsh, but it is one of the few things you can look at someone and say like, hey, I can physically tell you have a substance abuse problem.
Right.
Like, I can look at you and tell you have a substance abuse problem. You are abusing your body by putting the improper food in front of it, and probably likewise, not stewarding your time well.
Oh, yeah. You can see it.
That's not judgmental. I'm saying, like, I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm saying, hey, but I'm saying you can do better, and there's an expectation that you should do better. And I'm reaching out a hand to say, like, let me help you. Yeah. But that like doesn't occur at all. Like, I know there's a long way around that question, but like, why do you think that is? Why do you think that's the topic that's ignored?
That's a good question. The way I look at it, and this is part of the reason I really started looking for a gym, is like, I preach the Bible. There are preachers out there who can barely get out of their chair to get to the pulpit on Sunday morning because of all the potlucks they go to and how they treat. I mean, I remember. Okay, I grew up in the Baptist church, and they know how to eat. Yeah, and they know it too, and that's fine. I get to the Methodist church recently. Methodists know how to eat. Yeah, they say. I'm like, yeah, you do. And I went to an event recently out in Ripley, and it was fried chicken, cheesy sausage potatoes, barbecue, and some other delicious, and then literally a a dessert buffet that was probably, I don't know, 30 feet long and stacked with cakes. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm going to eat a little bit of dessert. I'm going to peel the breading off the chicken.
Yeah.
But like, and everybody's like, man, this is good food. This is good food. This is awesome. Bless it to the nourishment of our bodies.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, he's not going to bless this to the nourishment of my body.
This is the opposite.
This is not nourishment. But we as humans are God's greatest creation.
Yeah.
The scriptures say it. And according to that, and according to man and woman's first commandment was to tend to creation.
Yeah.
Okay, that he says tend the garden. Well, the garden was part of creation.
Yeah.
So is that all we're supposed to do? We're not supposed to tend to ourselves, the greatest of his creation.
Yeah.
We're just supposed to tend to everything else. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I'm going to sit up there and teach the Bible, I got to teach that part too.
Yeah.
I can't just teach, this is what you should say or do, and this is what you don't do. No, this is part of it.
Yeah.
Like, stewarding your body is part of it. And so I think people, we cherry pick sins that we want to confront.
Yeah.
We never pick the glutton issue, the obese issue. We see kids that are barely like surviving VBS.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just the way their eating habits are. And it's kind of sad to see you can't play this game of gaga ball without just getting profusely out of breath.
Yeah.
But if you say something, if you bring it up, you don't want to rebuke them, but it needs to be acknowledged. And I think in a lot of my sermons, somehow I've worked it in.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Not so much recently, but it finds its way into my studying, into my writing. It gets important.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be more of an issue in the church besides these ideologies and other sins that people cherry pick and care about the most.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think there's a kind of a multi-prong kind of issue. I do think to a degree, a lot of people are just kind of like oblivious.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because they're just somewhat blinded to it because it is so prevalent. You know, it is so prevalent. It's not specifically laid out in scripture where it says like, thou shalt not be obese. You know?
I mean, there's obese people in the Bible. It just words it differently.
Yeah. Well, and also it's like being obese back then was like really almost impossible.
Yeah.
You had to be a piece of royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to work at it.
Yeah. So I think that there is a degree of like obliviousness to it. I also think there's a degree, like you said, of it's like, well, how do we congregate? And historically, it has always been around food.
Yeah.
But only here recently have we had the ability to make that food so calorically high while also living a lifestyle that is so calorically low.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so it's like, well, how do we continue some of these fellowship rituals that we have in place in a way that's not that's not detrimental to our bodies, you know?
Right.
And I think that's something difficult for like the church as a whole to kind of work through.
Definitely. And I think we use the excuse. I mean, a lot of churches use the excuse, well, in the early church, this is how they met. They met around the table. And I'm a big supporter of meeting around the table, and food is a common bond.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest ministries I was ever a part of was called Feast. And it was every week, it was a potluck. It was young millennial adults that cared about what they ate.
Yeah.
And of course, there was always a couple of unhealthy options to
Yeah.
mostly desserts, but I mean, it was generally good food,
Yep.
whole foods that we came around the table and ate around. It's a bonding thing, but it needs to be.
I also think people kind of like the meeting around the table was also done in the aspect of like, we're going to go fish, or we're going to go hunt, or we're going to go plow and harvest. And there was a physical aspect behind gathering the food that you were going to eat.
Yeah. It
You know
wasn't
what I
just
mean?
go down to the store. It was,
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't like I'm going to go buy this, 500 calorie per serving pie or cake.
yeah.
And then place it like that. There was like, I'm going to bring this grain or this bread, but I put in a significant amount of work to make this bread, to bring it, or to this fish or whatever it be. I'm going to go, I'm harvesting this fruit or what I'm pressing this,
yeah.
this wine, like I'm physically doing the activity of creating the food. So like, there's a bit of like that, and I think that goes back to like we were doing these physical activities together and then bringing that together to enjoy. It's like the day of rest. The day of rest is a chance to be thankful and rest from the work.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't do any real work physically anymore. We're like, we really appreciate that day of rest. And so like,
Right.
I think like the idea behind, okay. And, I've pitched this before and Jeffrey got that, well, David, no one's going to come behind. Like, why don't we do like a physical activity, a ruck or something? And then eat the food. You know what I mean? And I think my statement's always been like, hey, look, if we didn't impact the church through this way, we're not turning this whole ship.
Right.
Like, give me 5, give me 10, give me 12. Give me 12 dudes, and let me impact the core, and let that spread.
Yeah.
Just give me 12 guys, and let's do this the way that we believe is the right way to do it, and then invite others in, and let's let the impacts that people are seeing this have on us. I've said, let me have a guy come to the gym and it impact his life in a way that his wife goes, you better get your butt to the gym this morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when you go to the gym, like you're happier, and you come home and you're a better dad, and you're not as likely to like snap on the kids, and like you've got more energy. You're not laying on the couch, like you're coming home and like I'm seeing this impact every other area of your life. Is like, go get your butt to the gym.
Yeah.
And like let that wife then tell, like, man, I just gotta say, like, I'm so proud of what Jeff has done. Like he's been doing this, and it's made our marriage better. He's been a better dad. And then like that is being told to that other wife, who then is like, let me get John's butt over to the gym too, because like his butt's just sitting around watching, sports all day on Saturday, that kind of thing. And that's, I think, the way that it happens.
Yeah, organic growth and
yeah,
for sure.
I also think I made the comment that I don't think as Christians there is a reality that we are not perfect. We are all sinners, struggling through, but we are asked to live lives differently and look differently. And that should be in our actions. And then those actions physically are going to cause a different look physically.
Right.
And, unfortunately, the church just mirrors society when it comes to physical health and fitness. And, it's like, I don't think like having a 6-pack abs is a sign of a Christian at all.
No.
But the recognition that this body is a gift given to me and I should steward it well. And I'm going to struggle because we all do, but
Mhm.
like I'm going to pursue that proper stewardship. You know, if enough people did that, then we would see that difference and that change occur,
I think so.
you know. And then the outflow of that is positivity in a million ways. It's like we know that like stewing your body well, taking care of it is going to impact your mental health.
Oh yeah.
You're going to feel better. You're going to be happier. You're going to have less stress. You know, that's going to impact your marriages. That's going to impact your kids. It's going to impact your friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Later on in life, when the kids are out of the house and you're not having the same work responsibilities, you're like, well, like, how can I now give back? How can I disciple? Is it through, how can I give back? Is it through discipleship? Well, you've got a bigger capacity to disciple more.
Yeah.
Is it through lending your time? Well, you've got a more capacity to like go and do work. Maybe if it is physical in nature, like you can do more of that. If it's evangelism, you got a greater capacity to do that. And you've also got so we call like the greater lifespan and the greater health span. So it's like you're probably going to gain 5 to 10 years by taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to gain 10 to 15 years of health span. Basically, like you will be able to continue to be active in a way not currently available to most people who are elderly.
Right.
And the outflow of that, the impact that you can have by doing that is great. And I think that's the message I try to get across to people when I'm talking to them. I think the fitness industry, being worldly, has kind of shifted most of the view towards like, well, fitness is like looking good in a bathing suit and doing kissy faces on Instagram. You know what I mean? And so it's really easy. Like it's really easy as a mother of 3 or 4 in your 40s to kind of look at that and be like, not for me, not interested. You know?
Oh, easy. Yeah.
You're like, not, like, or to say like, well, I'm not into that. That's worldly.
Oh yeah.
Well, all those fitness people, they're just obsessed with the way they look, and so like I'm more obsessed with my soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, well, okay, cool, but yeah, that's not really what it's about. Like,
No.
This is the impact that it has, and I thought that's kind of like the message I want people to take from it.
Yeah.
To hear.
And when I was doing my No Sweat intro, that's what the focus was.
Yeah.
It was focusing on your future, and not just about how you look, and the improvements that it's going to do. Like there was a lot more to it than just physical looks.
100%,
which was great.
Yeah,
it was another reason that it was a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, so when you're doing your studies, do you have a new like eye for what the scriptures say with regards to like health and fitness?
Yeah, I try to find things.
Yeah.
I did a whole study in Genesis about that commandment to tend to creation.
Yeah.
And that it was just amazing. And then we've talked about people like Joshua and then Caleb, who's like 80 something and goes to war.
He's like, hey, he's like, send me.
Yeah.
He's like, give me the giants.
Okay. Like, I can't do that now.
Yeah.
But he did it. But yeah, there's so much in there that I see now than I have in the past. Because, well, when I was sitting there studying the Bible, eating Bojangles, you're not looking for that.
Yeah. It's what I noticed is like, man, like all the commands, they're all like physical commands. Like if you ever like it's walk, it's climb, like it's like to interact with God, like Moses has to climb a mountain.
Yeah. Over and over.
Yeah, like multiple times.
At his old age.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. They're like having to follow God through the desert for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like picking up camp, like literally having to build the tabernacle like on a reoccurring basis. You're under, like, most people can't walk a mile. It's like walking for 40 years
in the desert
required. Or sailing across seas, or it's all physical in nature. And I just don't believe there can be the same connection had without dealing some of that with that real physical need and pain and discomfort. I think that connection gets deeper when you do something like that. So
yeah, I mean, you see, clearly, especially with Moses, that's the one for me that's always been like, I was reading, I guess it was Exodus not too long ago, and he goes up the mountain, then he has to go back down, then he has to go back. I mean, it's over and over again, and he just does it.
Yeah.
Doesn't question it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, he probably griped a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, but it's just incredible to think about, to get to God. It's going to be hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to suck.
Yeah. It's going to be painful.
But when you're all doing it together, it'll be worth it.
Yeah. I think like pull up Mount Sinai and see what it looks like. I got it pulled up right now. It's like, it's a mountain. Like it's a legit mountain.
Oh, that'd be rough.
Oh, awesome, brother. All right, well, let's wrap this up. Any final words of encouragement, or like, what would you say to someone now who's kind of like struggling with their health and fitness and knows they need to make a change?
For me, what I've learned is it's about your needs, not your wants. So, like I was talking when I was looking for a place to go, what I needed was accountability, and I needed somebody I could ask questions to, somebody that would encourage me. I didn't know I was going to get a whole gym full of that.
Yeah.
But that's what I got.
Yeah.
And then putting my wants second, like my goals are to do this, but if I can't have these things, it's not going to work for me. So, and then ask questions. Like, just ask them.
Yeah.
You're not going to sound dumb.
Yeah.
I still ask questions probably every day of the week to one of the coaches.
I ask questions to the coaches every day.
There you go. I mean, ask the questions. I mean, I know in my no sweat, I don't know how many questions I asked, but they had to get annoyed.
Yeah. Who was your no sweat?
Well, my first one was with Keiki.
Okay.
And then my second one was with Angie.
Okay.
And I signed up on this. I knew I was going to sign up.
Yeah.
But, I had to talk to the wife and all that stuff.
Yep.
But no, yeah, ask questions and put your needs. That's going to be really important.
Love it. Did you want to read your bananas one? Is it appropriate for the podcast?
Well, it was meant to be appropriate, and then it turned into a bunch of dirty men. But we don't need to probably bring that to
All right. All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
All right, NBS Fitness Radio out.
Thank you for listening to NBS Fitness Radio. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, follow us on social media, and check out our website at www.nbsfitness.net. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more NBS Fitness Radio.